The Luna's hands were still trembling when she pushed the Alpha's son from the tower window. 3 years old. Heir to the throne by blood oath and pack law. Gone in an instant. His small body tumbling through the morning mist like a broken dove. His scream swallowed by the wind that whipped around the obsidian spires of the Fortress of Eternal Fangs. But Cassia saw everything. The Omega had been gathering moonflowers in the shadow garden below. Her silver hair hidden beneath a worn cloak. Her presence as invisible as all Omegas were meant to be in the court of Alpha Marcus Aurelius. And when the child fell, when little Tiberius, the rightful heir, plummeted toward the stone courtyard, something ancient and primal surged through her veins. She moved without thinking. Her body blurred with impossible speed, arms outstretched, catching the boy mid-air mere feet from death. The impact drove her to her knees, but she held him tight, his small heart thundering against her chest, his golden eyes, the sacred eyes of the royal bloodline, wide with shock but alive, so terribly, beautifully alive. Above, in the tower window, Luna Valentina's face appeared, pale and predatory, searching for the broken body that should have been below. Cassia pressed herself and the child against the wall, hidden by the angle and the shadows, barely breathing. Tell me the city you're watching from so I can send you a hug, because what comes next will shatter your heart before it remakes it. Luna Valentina was not supposed to be Luna at all. Everyone in the kingdom of Sanguis Noctis knew this, though none dared speak it. She was the second choice, the political arrangement, the bride selected only because Marcus Aurelius's true mate, Tiberius's mother, the blessed Luna Octavia, had died giving birth to the heir 3 winters past. The forbidden bloodline ran through that boy's veins. Not just the Alpha strength, but Octavia's ancient lineage, descended from the first wolves, the pack that made the original blood oath with the moon goddess herself. Royal decree stated that when Tiberius came of age, he would be the most powerful Alpha the realm had ever known, unless he died first. Valentina had other plans. Dark, treasonous plans that involved her own son, not by Marcus, but by Beta Drusus, the Alpha's most trusted war commander. A secret she'd kept perfectly hidden, a forbidden bloodline of her own making. She'd been plotting since the day Marcus left for the Northern War, taking half the pack with him, leaving the kingdom vulnerable. She wanted Drusus's son, little Gaius, to be declared heir. Wanted the Beta bloodline to seize the throne. Wanted power that was never meant to be hers. And she'd just tried to murder a child to get it. Cassia ran through the servant corridors with Tiberius clutched to her chest, his small fingers gripping her cloak, his golden eyes now filled with tears. He didn't understand. How could he? At 3 years old, he only knew that the woman who called herself his new mother had just thrown him from a window, and now a strange silver-haired servant was carrying him through darkness. "Shoo, little prince," Cassia whispered, her voice breaking. "I won't let her hurt you. I swear it on my blood, on my pack, on everything I am." She had no pack. That was the cruel truth of being an Omega in Sanguis Noctis. The lowest rank, the invisible servants, those without voice or vote in pack law. She had no authority to protect a royal heir. No right to interfere in Luna business. If anyone discovered what she'd done, if Valentina realized Tiberius still lived, both of them would die. Slowly, publicly. But Cassia had made a vow 3 years ago, standing in the shadows during Tiberius's birth ceremony. She'd watched Luna Octavia die with her newborn son cradled against her chest, watched the light leave those kind eyes, watched the Alpha howl his grief at the moon. And something had broken open inside Cassia that night, something that whispered this child was precious, this child was hope, this child must survive, even if it meant her own death. She reached her quarters in the Omega wing, a cramped room barely large enough for a sleeping mat and a small trunk. She pressed a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a space she'd discovered years ago while scrubbing floors. A gap between the old fortress walls and the new construction, just large enough to hide a small child. "You must be very quiet," she whispered to Tiberius, settling him inside with a blanket and the last of her food. "The bad woman thinks you're gone. We need to keep you safe until your father comes home from the war. Can you be brave for me, little prince?" Those golden eyes stared at her with far too much understanding for a 3-year-old. "Mama tried to make me fly," he said softly. "But I don't have wings yet." Cassia's heart shattered. "No, sweet one. You don't have wings. That's why I caught you." By sunset, Luna Valentina had declared a day of mourning. The entire court assembled in the Great Hall of Howling, where the pack laws had been written in blood 1,000 years before. Valentina stood on the dais in black ceremonial robes, her face a perfect mask of grief, her eyes red from manufactured tears. "The heir has been taken from us," she announced, her voice carrying through the massive stone chamber. "Prince Tiberius fell from the tower window this morning. His body—" She paused, letting her voice break convincingly. "His body was carried away by the wind, blessed by the moon goddess herself. She has claimed him for the eternal hunt." Gasps rippled through the assembled wolves. The court officials, the warrior class, the servants all pressed against the back wall, everyone in various states of shock and sorrow. But Cassia, standing invisible among the other Omegas, saw what others missed. She saw Betrayal standing too close to Valentina, his hand briefly touching the small of her back, a gesture of possession, not comfort. She saw the way Valentina's eyes scanned the crowd, searching, calculating, making sure no one questioned her story. She saw 3-year-old Gaius being led forward, dressed in royal colors that no Beta's son should wear, already being positioned as the new heir. "In accordance with pack law," Valentina continued, "and with Alpha Marcus away at war, I declare that we must ensure the succession. My son Gaius, blessed by my union with the Alpha," the lie slid from her tongue like poisoned honey, "will be raised as heir to the throne of Sanguis Noctis. That violates royal decree." Someone shouted from the crowd. Cassia's heart stopped. She recognized that voice, Elder Silas, one of the few remaining council members who remembered the old ways, who had served under Marcus's father. Valentina's expression didn't change, but her eyes went cold. "Elder Silas, your grief makes you speak rashly. There is no violation. With Tiberius gone to the eternal hunt, the succession must be secured. Unless you challenge the Luna's authority." The unspoken threat hung in the air. Pack law allowed a Luna to execute any wolf who challenged her authority while the Alpha was away at war. It was meant to prevent chaos, but in Valentina's hands, it became a weapon. Elder Silas bowed his head, defeated. "No challenge, Luna. Forgive me." But as he retreated, his eyes swept the room, and for one brief electric moment, locked with Cassia's. Something passed between them. A flicker of understanding. Of shared knowledge that something was terribly, catastrophically wrong. 3 days passed. 3 days of Cassia sneaking food to Tiberius, keeping him hidden in the walls, singing him soft songs to stop his crying, teaching him to be silent as a ghost. 3 days of watching Valentina consolidate power, removing Marcus's most loyal advisors one by one, replacing them with wolves loyal to Betrayal. 3 days of the kingdom bleeding from within while its Alpha fought enemies in the north, unaware that the true enemy wore his Luna's face. On the 4th day, Valentina made her next move. "I have consulted with the moon goddess," she announced at dawn council, standing before the assembled court with Betrayal at her right hand. "She has shown me a vision. Prince Tiberius's death was not an accident. It was a judgment." Shocked murmurs erupted. Elder Silas stepped forward, his face pale. "Luna, what are you saying?" "Tiberius carried forbidden bloodline," Valentina declared, her voice ringing with false conviction. "Luna Octavia's ancient lineage was corrupted, cursed. The moon goddess herself rejected the child, cast him from the tower to prevent his tainted blood from poisoning our pack." The lies were breathtaking in their audacity. Cassia felt her wolf rise within her, a surge of rage so powerful it made her hands shake. The forbidden bloodline was blessed, not cursed. Everyone knew this. But Valentina was rewriting history, and with Marcus gone, with her supporters surrounding her, Who would dare contradict her? Therefore, Valentina continued, I decree that all mention of Tiberius be struck from the records. All portraits removed. All ceremonies honoring Luna Octavia's lineage forbidden. We begin anew, purified, with Gaius as our rightful heir. This is blasphemy. Elder Silas roared, his wolf breaking through. His eyes flashing amber with rage. You cannot erase the rightful heir. You cannot rewrite pack law. This is treason, Valentina finished coldly. You speak treason, elder. Guards. Warriors moved before anyone could react. Marcus's own guards, twisted by Valentina's manipulation or threats, seizing Elder Silas by both arms. The old wolf struggled, his voice desperate. The pack must know. The heir lives. Tiberius lives. He didn't know. Couldn't know. But somehow, his faith in the old ways, in the sacred bloodline, made him speak truth without proof. Valentina's face went white, then red with fury. You dare spread false hope. You dare question the Luna's word. She stepped close to Elder Silas, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire hall. You will be executed at moonrise. For treason. For spreading lies about the royal family. And your body will hang from the tower window, the same window that rejected the cursed prince. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some wolves protested, others remained silent, trapped between loyalty and fear. And Cassia, standing in the shadows, realized with cold clarity that everything was accelerating toward catastrophe. Elder Silas believed Tiberius lived. If Valentina tortured him, would he somehow discover the truth? Would he lead her to the hidden prince? Cassia had to act. But how could an Omega, powerless, voiceless, invisible, stand against a Luna who commanded armies? That night, as the moon rose blood-red over Sanguis Noctis, someone knocked on Cassia's door with the secret pattern Omegas used among themselves. 3 quick, 2 slow. She opened it to find a cloaked figure, and when the hood fell back, she gasped. Lady Aurelia. She dropped to her knees instantly, head bowed. Marcus's sister. The one royal family member who had remained neutral, who had stayed behind when Marcus marched to war because she was still recovering from silver poisoning, an assassination attempt that had nearly killed her 2 moons prior. Rise, Omega, Aurelia commanded, her voice weak but urgent. She slipped inside, closing the door. We don't have time for protocols. Elder Silas sent me a message before they took him. He said you have kind eyes, and that if anyone in this fortress still has the courage to protect the forbidden bloodline, it would be a servant. An invisible servant who sees everything. Cassia's mouth went dry. Lady Aurelia, I don't. My nephew lives. Aurelia's golden eyes, the same sacred shade as Tiberius's, bore into her. Don't lie to me, Omega. I can send him on you. Faint but there. Milk and honey and royal blood. Where is Tiberius? The moment stretched between them, heavy with consequence. Cassia could deny it, could lie, could protect herself. But Aurelia was family. True family. And she was looking at Cassia not with the contempt most nobles showed Omegas, but with desperate hope. He's safe, Cassia whispered finally. Hidden. I caught him when the Luna. When my brother's viper of a mate murdered him, Aurelia finished bitterly. I suspected, but I had no proof. My poisoning wasn't an accident, Cassia. Valentina tried to kill me because I questioned her son's legitimacy. I've been weak, recovering, unable to act. But if Tiberius lives, her voice broke. If my nephew lives, then there's still hope. She gripped Cassia's shoulders. Marcus returns in 3 days. 3 days. The Northern War is won. I received word through channels Valentina doesn't know about. But if she executes Silas tonight, if she continues consolidating power, if she discovers Tiberius before Marcus returns, we all die, Cassia finished quietly. No. Aurelia's voice went hard as steel. If she discovers him, the entire kingdom dies. Because she won't just kill Tiberius. She'll kill every wolf loyal to Marcus, everyone who knows the truth about the forbidden bloodline. She'll stage a coup, claim Marcus fell in battle, put Drusus on the throne and rule through him. This isn't just about one child, Cassia. This is about the survival of everything the first wolves built. The weight of it crashed over Cassia like a winter avalanche. She was just an omega, just a servant, just an invisible girl who picked moonflowers and scrubbed floors. How had she become the fulcrum point between kingdom and catastrophe? But she'd made a vow. On Tiberius's birth night, she'd vowed to protect him, even if it meant standing in the path of absolute destruction. Aurelia moved fast. Within hours, she'd gathered the few remaining council members loyal to Marcus, 7 wolves out of the original 21. They met in an abandoned wine cellar beneath the fortress, lit by a single torch, speaking in whispers that trembled with fear and fury. Valentina has violated every sacred law, Magistrate Felix growled. His grey beard matted with stress. Pack law forbids a Luna from executing council members without alpha approval. Royal decree forbids changing succession without blood witness. She's committed treason a dozen times over. And who will enforce these laws? Commander Portia demanded, her scarred face harsh in the torchlight. She commands the fortress guard. Drusus commands the warrior class. We're 7 wolves against an army. We have proof of nothing, another council member added miserably. She'll claim Tiberius died by accident. She'll claim Silas spoke treason. She'll claim authority through pack law. And with Marcus 3 days away, we have the heir. Aurelia's voice cut through the despair like a blade. Alive, hidden, protected by this Omega, who caught him mid-air when Valentina threw him from the tower. Every head snapped toward Cassia, who stood in the corner, trying to remain invisible by habit. The attention made her skin crawl, but she forced herself to meet their stares. An Omega. Felix's voice dripped with skepticism. Your Highness, forgive me, but Omegas don't have the strength to catch falling objects, let alone royal children. Yet I did, Cassia said quietly, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. The moon goddess gave me speed I don't possess naturally. I don't understand it. But I caught him and I've kept him safe for 4 days now. Portia's eyes narrowed with calculation. The forbidden bloodline sometimes awakens dormant abilities in those nearby. Luna Octavia's power was said to enhance the wolves around her, to make them stronger, faster, more loyal. If this Omega was present at Tiberius's birth, if she made some kind of spiritual vow. She trailed off, studying Cassia with new respect. The moon goddess works through the most unlikely instruments. Then we use this, Aurelia declared. Tonight, before Valentina executes Silas, we reveal Tiberius. Publicly. In the Hall of Howling with witnesses. We force her hand, expose her attempted murder, and hold the kingdom together until Marcus returns. She'll kill us all, someone whispered. She'll try, Aurelia corrected. But pack law is absolute. If the rightful heir appears alive, Valentina's authority collapses. Every decree she's made becomes void. Every wolf will have to choose. Follow a traitor Luna, or protect the sacred bloodline. Cassia's heart pounded. Lady Aurelia, he's just 3 years old. If we bring him before the court, if Valentina sees him, she'll be forced to acknowledge him or reveal herself as a liar and attempted murderer, Aurelia finished. It's a risk. Terrible risk. But it's the only chance we have to save both Tiberius and the kingdom. Because if we wait, if we hide until Marcus returns, Valentina will have 3 more days to hunt for the child, 3 more days to eliminate opposition, 3 more days to make her position unassailable. The council members exchanged glances, silent communication passing between them. Finally Felix nodded. It's madness. But it's the only madness that might work. Portia stepped forward, kneeling before Cassia with warrior's grace. Omega Cassia, you have protected the heir when all others failed. By the old laws, by the blood oath of the first wolves, We acknowledge you as Tiberius's guardian until the Alpha returns. Do you accept this burden? Tears burned Cassia's eyes. I already made that vow the night he was born. I accept it again now. They brought Tiberius to the Hall of Howling at moonrise, just as Elder Silas was being led to the execution platform. The entire court had assembled to witness the death. Valentina had made attendance mandatory, turning justice into spectacle. She stood on the dais in blood-red robes, her face serene, Drusus at her side with his hand resting on his sword. Gaius, dressed in the heir's ceremonial circlet, sat on a small throne that had been hastily constructed, his 3-year-old face confused but obedient. Elder Silas, Valentina announced, her voice echoing through the hall. You have been found guilty of treason, of spreading false hope about the dead prince, of questioning the Luna's sacred authority. By pack law, you will be executed, and your line will be marked with shame for 7 generations. Do you have final words? Silas, bound in silver chains that burned his skin, lifted his head. His voice was weak but defiant. The heir lives. The forbidden bloodline endures. The moon goddess sees your treachery, Valentina. And when Alpha Marcus returns. When Alpha Marcus returns, Valentina interrupted coldly. He will thank me for eliminating traitors and securing his kingdom. Executioner. Proceed. Wait. The voice rang out clear and powerful. Aurelia, stepping from the crowd with the 6 remaining loyal council members flanking her. The assembly gasped. Aurelia was supposed to be too weak to leave her chambers, too poisoned to interfere. But she stood tall now, her golden eyes blazing with purpose. Valentina's face froze. Lady Aurelia, you should be resting. This is not your concern. Everything about my nephew is my concern, Aurelia shot back. And I bring evidence that makes this execution illegal. I bring evidence that makes every decree you've issued in the past 4 days void. I bring. She turned and gestured. Cassia stepped forward from the crowd, her silver hair uncovered, her simple omega clothing stark against the noble's finery. And in her arms, wrapped in a blanket bearing the royal crest, was Tiberius. The hall of howling erupted. Wolves surged forward, shouting, questioning, some in joy, others in confusion. Valentina's face went from pale to crimson to deathly white in seconds. Drusus's hand clenched on his sword, his body tensing like a predator about to strike. Silence! Aurelia's voice carried the alpha command, a rare gift, normally reserved for those with royal blood. The crowd obeyed instantly. I present Tiberius Aurelius, son of Marcus and Octavia, rightful heir by blood oath and pack law, alive, unharmed, saved by this Omega when his Luna tried to murder him. Tiberius, for his part, simply stared at the crowd with those sacred golden eyes, his small hand clutching Cassia's cloak. He'd been rehearsed, told to be brave, but he was still just 3 years old, and the weight of hundreds of stairs made him press closer to Cassia. Valentina recovered with frightening speed. This is absurd. The prince died. I mourned him. We all mourned him. This is some cruel trick, some Omega's desperate attempt at. I saw you, Cassia said quietly. Then louder. I saw you, Luna Valentina. I was in the Shadow Garden. I saw you push him from the tower. I saw you search for his body. I saw you smile when you thought him dead. The silence that fell was suffocating. Valentina's lips curled into something that might have been a smile or might have been a snarl. The word of an Omega against the Luna. Pack law is clear. Omegas have no voice in legal matters. This creature could be saying anything, could be manipulated by traitors like Aurelia who seek to undermine my authority while my mate is away at war. Then let the child speak, Magistrate Felix called out. Royal blood cannot lie when invoking the moon goddess. It's the oldest law. Valentina's eyes flashed with panic for just an instant. He's 3 years old. He doesn't understand. Show them, Aurelia said gently to Tiberius. Show them your eyes, nephew. Show them the forbidden bloodline. Cassia knelt, setting Tiberius on his feet. The little prince looked up at her, uncertain, and she nodded encouragingly. He took a breath, then stepped forward with surprising steadiness. "Mama Valentina pushed me," he said in his clear child's voice. "She said I had to fly, but I was scared. Then the silver lady caught me." He pointed at Cassia. "She sings to me in the walls. She gives me bread and honey. She says Papa will come home soon." The simplicity of it was devastating. No 3-year-old could fabricate such a story, could maintain such clarity under the weight of hundreds of stares. And his eyes, those golden eyes that marked royal blood, were impossible to deny. Valentina's composure finally cracked. You dare bring this accusation against me. I am Luna. I rule this fortress while Marcus is away. I could have you all executed for treason." "Then execute us," Aurelia said calmly. "Execute your mate's sister. Execute the council members. Execute Elder Silas for speaking truth. Execute everyone who threatens your grasp on power. But know this, Valentina. The moment you do, every wolf in this kingdom will know you for what you are. A murderer. Traitor. A false Luna who tried to destroy the forbidden bloodline." Valentina's hand shot out, and suddenly she was holding a blade, a silver knife that appeared from her robes like a serpent's fang. She moved with shocking speed, crossing the space between herself and Tiberius in a blur of motion, murder in her eyes. But Cassia was faster. The Omega moved before thought, her body acting on instinct, on the same impossible speed that had let her catch a falling child. She threw herself between Valentina and Tiberius, and the silver blade meant for the prince's heart plunged into her shoulder instead. Pain exploded through Cassia's body. Silver burned Omegas worse than anyone, targeted their weak wolf nature, turned their blood to acid. She screamed, but she didn't fall. She wrapped her arms around Tiberius, shielding him with her body, her blood staining his royal blanket. The hall of howling exploded into chaos. Warriors loyal to Drusus drew weapons. Council members loyal to Marcus drew weapons. The court divided instantly, violently, the fragile peace Valentina had maintained shattering like glass. "Enough!" Commander Portia's voice, trained on 100 battlefields, cut through the madness. She stood with her own blade drawn, positioned between Valentina and the crowd. "By pack law, by ancient right, by the code of warriors, I declare this Luna unfit to rule. She has committed murder before witnesses. She has violated the sacred bloodline. She has. You have no authority." Valentina shrieked, her composure completely gone now, her face twisted with rage and desperation. "Drusus! Kill them! Kill them all!" Beta Drusus hesitated. For one crucial moment, the warrior commander, father of Valentina's secret son, conspirator in her treasonous plans, hesitated. Because killing Aurelia meant killing Marcus's sister. Killing the council meant civil war. Killing the rightful heir meant eternal damnation by pack law. Even traitors have lines they fear to cross. That hesitation saved them all. Elder Silas, still bound in silver chains, began to howl. The ancient war cry, the summons that transcended rank, that called all wolves to witness truth. One by one, other voices joined. First Portia, then Felix, then Aurelia, then wolves throughout the crowd who still believed in the old ways. The howl rose and rose, filling the hall of howling with sound that shook the stone walls, that rattled the windows, that seemed to summon the moon goddess herself. And in the distance, carried on the wind from the north gate, answering howls began to echo. Marcus had returned early. The Alpha had come home. Marcus Aurelius burst into the hall of howling with 30 warriors at his back, covered in blood and dust from the northern campaign. His golden eyes wild with fury and confusion. He'd heard the howls from miles away, had pushed his wolves beyond endurance to reach the fortress, knowing something catastrophic had happened but not what. He took in the scene with a soldier's instant assessment. His sister standing defiant with drawn blade, Elder Silas in chains, Valentina with a bloody knife in hand, Drusus positioned between the crowd and the dais, and Tiberius. The word tore from Marcus's throat with such raw emotion that half the room flinched. His son. His heir. The child he'd mourned for 4 days, having received Valentina's message about the tragic accident while still in the north. The little prince stood in the arms of a silver-haired Omega who was bleeding from a shoulder wound, his golden eyes wide with recognition. "Papa!" Marcus moved like lightning, crossing the hall, dropping to his knees before Cassia and Tiberius, his massive hands trembling as he reached out to touch his son's face. "You're alive. My son, you're alive." He looked up at Cassia, taking in her pallor, her wound, the way she held Tiberius even as silver poisoning spread through her veins. "Who are you? What happened?" "I caught him," Cassia whispered, her voice fading. "When the Luna pushed him from the tower. I caught him mid-air. Kept him safe. I promised Luna Octavia I would protect him." Her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. Marcus caught her instinctively, his alpha strength cradling both the Omega and his son. He looked up at the assembled court, at Valentina frozen on the dais, at Drusus with his hand still on his sword, at the division and chaos that had nearly torn his kingdom apart. "Someone," he said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper, "is going to explain. Now." Aurelia stepped forward. "Brother, your Luna tried to murder your heir to make her own son, Beta Drusus's son, the next Alpha. When she failed, she declared Tiberius cursed, tried to erase him from history, and attempted to seize power through a coup. This Omega saved Tiberius twice, once from falling, once from Valentina's blade. Elder Silas and the loyal council members risked execution to reveal the truth. And your Beta." She let the words hang, damning. Marcus's gaze swung to Drusus, and the temperature in the hall seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Is this true, old friend? Did you betray me?" Drusus's face worked through a dozen expressions: guilt, defiance, shame, rage. Finally he dropped to one knee, his sword clattering to the stone floor. "The boy is mine. His, not yours. Valentina and I. We plan to secure the succession, to strengthen the throne with Beta blood. We never meant." He gestured helplessly at the chaos around them. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. You tried to murder my son." Marcus's voice was flat, emotionless, the tone that terrified enemies on the battlefield more than any roar. "You tried to erase the forbidden bloodline. You conspired with my Luna to commit treason against pack law, against royal decree, against the blood oath of the first wolves." He stood, still holding Cassia and Tiberius, his presence filling the hall with alpha power that made even the strongest wolves bow their heads. "By pack law, by ancient right, by the code that governs all wolves, I declare Luna Valentina and Beta Drusus guilty of high treason. The sentence is death. Immediate, public, and their bloodlines will be marked with shame for 7 generations." Valentina finally found her voice, shrill with desperation. "You can't. I'm your Luna. You need me. The kingdom needs justice," Marcus interrupted coldly. "And mercy for those who truly deserve it." He looked down at Cassia, unconscious in his arms, silver poisoning spreading dark veins up her neck. "This Omega, she saved my son. She risked everything when no one else would. By the old laws, by the sacred traditions, I claim her as under my personal protection. She will be healed. She will be honored. And if she survives the silver poisoning." He looked at Aurelia, something passing between the siblings. "She will be granted rank. A place in this court that befits a savior of the royal bloodline." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Omegas were never granted rank, never given voice. It violated centuries of tradition. But Marcus was Alpha, and in the aftermath of attempted coup, his word was absolute. "Commander Portia," Marcus continued, his voice steady as stone, "execute the traitors. Magistrate Felix, summon the full council. We have much to rebuild. Aurelia, take Tiberius to safety and ensure he receives care. And someone, His voice finally cracked just slightly. "Someone save this Omega's life. She's earned it 1,000 times over." The executions happened at dawn. Valentina and Drusus died by silver blade. Their bodies burned as traitors, their names struck from the records. Little Gaius, innocent of his parents' crimes, was sent to a foster family in the eastern provinces. Far from court, far from the throne, given a chance at a life unmarked by his parents' treason. Elder Silas was freed, honored, restored to his position with full authority. The council was rebuilt with wolves loyal to Marcus and the old ways. The fortress guard was purged of traitors. And slowly, carefully, the kingdom of Sanguis Noctis began to heal from the wound Valentina had carved into its heart. Cassia hung between life and death for 3 days. The silver poisoning had spread too far, infected too deep. The royal healers did everything they could, but silver and omega blood was a lethal combination. Marcus himself sat vigil outside her chambers, Tiberius clutching his hand, the little prince refusing to leave until the Silver Lady woke up. On the 3rd night, as the full moon rose over the fortress, Aurelia entered the healing chambers with something wrapped in silk. She knelt beside Cassia's bed, unwrapping an object that gleamed with ancient power, a pendant bearing the crest of Luna Octavia, imbued with the first wolf's blessing. "Sister-in-law," Aurelia whispered, though Cassia couldn't hear her. Octavia left this for whoever would protect her son. She had visions before she died, saw fragments of a future where Tiberius would need a guardian, a protector who wasn't bound by rank or politics. She saw a silver-haired Omega with kind eyes and impossible courage. She placed the pendant against Cassia's heart, and it flared with light, moon-bright, ancient, powerful. The sacred energy of the forbidden bloodline passed from one guardian to the next. Cassia's eyes flew open, gasping, the silver poisoning burning away in an instant as the pendant's power flooded through her veins. Her weak Omega wolf surged, strengthened, transformed by the blessing of a dead Luna and the gratitude of the moon goddess herself. What happened?" she whispered, staring at the glowing pendant. "You became legend," Aurelia said simply. 3 weeks later, the kingdom held a ceremony unlike any in its 1,000-year history. The Hall of Howling filled with every wolf in Sanguis Noctis, nobles and servants, warriors and healers, alphas and omegas, all gathered to witness Marcus Aurelius make a decree that would reshape their world. Cassia stood on the dais in robes of silver and white, the pendant of Luna Octavia resting against her heart, her silver hair unbound and glowing in the torchlight. She was terrified, unused to attention, unused to standing before crowds instead of invisible in shadows. But Tiberius held her hand, his small fingers tight with trust, and that steadied her. "By pack law, by ancient right, by the blood oath of the first wolves," Marcus declared, his voice carrying through the hall, "I declare Cassia of the silver hair to be elevated from Omega to the rank of guardian. She will serve as protector and mentor to Prince Tiberius until he comes of age. She will have voice in council. She will have authority to speak on matters of the air. And she will be honored as the one who saved the kingdom when all others failed or stood aside." He turned to face Cassia directly, his golden eyes, so like his son's, filled with gratitude and something else. Respect. Recognition. The acknowledgement that this invisible servant had done what his warriors, his council, even his own sister couldn't do. "You made a vow the night my son was born," Marcus said quietly, "just for her. You kept it when it would have been easier, safer, wiser to look away. You caught him when he fell. You caught him again when he nearly fell a second time. And in doing so, you caught an entire kingdom. We owe you everything, Cassia. And I promise you, you will never be invisible again." Cassia's eyes burned with tears, but she held them back. "I just kept my promise, Alpha Marcus. I would do it again 1,000 times." "I know," he said softly. "That's why you're the only one I trust with my son's life." The crowd erupted in howls, not of challenge or war, but of celebration. The ancient cry of pack unity, of crisis survived, of hope renewed. And for the first time in her life, Cassia howled with them, her voice joining the song of wolves, No longer invisible, no longer silent, no longer alone. But that night, after the ceremonies ended and the crowds dispersed, Aurelia found Cassia on the tower balcony, the same tower Tiberius had fallen from, the place where everything had begun. "You're wondering why Octavia's pendant chose you," Aurelia said, joining her at the railing. "Why the blessing of the first wolves flowed through you so easily." Cassia nodded, fingering the pendant. "I'm nobody. Just an Omega who happened to be in the right place." "No." Aurelia's voice went gentle but firm. "You were always meant to be there. Cassia. Your mother never told you, did she? About your lineage?" Cold prickled down Cassia's spine. "My mother died when I was young. I was raised by the Omega house. I don't even know her name. Her name was Lucia. And she was Luna, Octavia's half-sister, born of an affair between Octavia's father and an Omega servant. Hidden. Sent away to prevent scandal. But the blood remained, diluted by Omega heritage, weakened by generations of concealment, but still carrying traces of the first wolf's blessing." Cassia stared at her, the revelation crashing over her like ice water. "I'm related to Luna Octavia? To Tiberius?" Distantly, barely. Not enough to claim royal status or threaten succession, but enough that when you made your vow the night Tiberius was born, the forbidden bloodline recognized you. Enough that the moon goddess granted you the speed to catch a falling heir. Enough that Octavia's pendant accepted you as guardian. Aurelia smiled sadly. "You were never just an Omega, Cassia. You were the safety valve Octavia's bloodline created. A hidden guardian positioned in the shadows, ready to protect the heir when all other protections failed. The forbidden bloodline takes care of its own, even the ones it had to hide away." Cassia looked out over the kingdom, over the fortress walls and the forests beyond, the moon casting silver light over everything. All her life, she'd been invisible, powerless, insignificant. And all her life, she'd carried ancient power without knowing it, waiting for the moment when a child would fall and only she could catch him. "So what happens now?" she whispered. "Now." Aurelia's voice filled with warmth. "Now you raise a prince. You teach him to be strong and kind. You protect him from threats both obvious and hidden. You become the mentor, the guardian, the steady presence his mother never got to be. And when he takes the throne someday, when Tiberius becomes the greatest alpha our kingdom has ever known." She placed a hand on Cassia's shoulder. "He'll remember that it was an invisible Omega with forbidden bloodline who caught him mid-air and taught him that true strength lies not in power, but in promises kept." 5 years passed. Tiberius grew strong and bright, his golden eyes sharp with intelligence beyond his years, his laughter filling the halls that had once echoed with conspiracy and death. Cassia raised him with firm kindness, teaching him strategy and history, pack law and compassion, how to be an alpha who served his people rather than ruled over them. Marcus watched them often, the boy and the silver-haired guardian, with an expression that grew softer with each passing season. Aurelia noted it with amusement, the way her brother looked at Cassia during council meetings, during training sessions, during quiet evenings when she read Tiberius stories by the fire. "You should tell her," Aurelia said one night when Marcus couldn't seem to stop staring. "Tell her what? That you've fallen in love with the Omega who saved your son. That somewhere between gratitude and admiration, you've developed feelings that violate a dozen propriety rules and would scandalize the court." Aurelia grinned. "Tell her, brother. Before someone else does." But Marcus hesitated. Because Cassia had been through so much, had risen so far, had earned her place through courage and sacrifice. She deserved to be courted properly, respected fully, not pressured by an alpha's attention. He would wait. Be patient. Let her choose. Until the night Cassia came to his study, her face pale, the pendant of Octavia glowing with urgent light. "Marcus," she said, dropping all formality in her fear. "The pendant is warning me. Someone is coming. Someone dangerous. Someone who wants to finish what Valentina started." "Who?" Marcus demanded, his alpha instincts flaring. "Valentina's brother. Lord Cornelius. He's been building an army in the west, gathering wolves loyal to the old Luna, wolves who believe Tiberius is cursed, wolves who want to avenge her death and put a different bloodline on the throne. And he's bringing them here. They'll arrive within 3 days. Marcus felt the world tilt. 3 days. The same time frame that had nearly destroyed them 5 years ago. History repeating itself. Another threat to the forbidden bloodline. Another battle for the kingdom's soul. But this time he had Cassia at his side. This time his son lived. This time the kingdom was united. This time they would be ready. "Gather the council," Marcus commanded. His voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "Alert Commander Portia. Prepare the fortress for siege. And Cassia." He reached out, taking her hand in his, feeling the pendant's power pulse between them. "Whatever comes, whatever happens, we face it together. You saved my son once. You saved my kingdom once. But I want you to know you've saved me too. Every day. In ways I'm only beginning to understand." Cassia's silver eyes widened, her breath catching at the emotion in his voice. "Marcus, tell me after we survive," he said softly. "Tell me when the war is won and our son is safe. Tell me when you've had time to think about what it would mean to stand beside an alpha who should have protected you better, should have seen you sooner, should have recognized that his guardian and his son's guardian and his heart's guardian were all the same person." Tears slipped down Cassia's cheeks. 3 days, she whispered. "We have 3 days to prepare for war. Then we'd better not waste them." He pulled her close, and for one brief, perfect moment, the Alpha and the Omega stood together in the study, the pendant glowing between them, while outside the fortress walls, an army marched closer under the dark moon. The Luna had pushed the Alpha's child from the tower. An Omega had caught him mid-air. And now, 5 years later, that same Omega would help defend him against enemies who would not stop until the forbidden bloodline was erased forever. The war for Sanguis Noctis's soul was about to begin. And this time, everyone would see that the invisible Omega was, and always had been, the kingdom's most powerful guardian. But in the shadows of the western mountains, as Lord Cornelius's army prepared their siege weapons and sharpened their blades, a different conversation was taking place. A cloaked figure stood before Cornelius, their face hidden, their voice distorted by ancient magic. "You're certain the pendant's power has transferred completely?" the figure asked. "Completely," Cornelius confirmed. "The Omega wears it. The Omega trusts it. And when the time comes, when she uses its power to defend the heir, the curse I wove into its replica 5 years ago will activate," the figure finished, their voice dripping with satisfaction. "The pendant will drain her life force, kill her slowly, and transfer her guardian bond to me. And then," they laughed, cold and cruel, "then I'll be close enough to the heir to finish what Valentina started. The boy will die. The forbidden bloodline will end. And a new order will rise. And if Marcus discovers the truth," Cornelius asked nervously. "He won't. Because the Omega loves that boy too much to question the pendant's power. She'll use it to protect him, never realizing she's feeding poison into her own veins with every act of courage. By the time anyone understands, she'll be dead. The heir will be vulnerable. And Marcus will have lost both the woman he loves and the son who is his future." The figure pulled back their hood, revealing a face identical